I grew up Hindu, and I come from a pretty practicing Hindu family. And then around eighth grade, ninth grade, I became atheist. And that's where I was till I came to college. So I walked on the college campus as an atheist who wanted everyone else to be an atheist. When I was a Hindu, there was this idea of like an all powerful God who will do good things if you're giving good things. But then in reality, that wasn't the case because suffering was still there. And then just my encounter with religious terrorism and Hindu-Muslim riots and all of that just really like pointed me to this question of, if God's all powerful, then why is all of this happening? When I came to college, I very much hated religion, is the best way to put it, and I did not believe in God. So I wanted everyone around me to also not believe in God or practice a religion. And that was something that I did walk on college campus wanting to do. I was in a place where I was lacking a lot of hope because I was pursuing all of the things that I thought would make me happy and nothing was working. So I told a friend about it, and in the conversation, she told me that she would pray for me. And I looked at her and I said, that's not going to work because God doesn't exist. And instead of arguing with me, all she did was she said, it will, and because he's real and he loves you. And then she told me her story, and it's very hard to argue a story. And I was faced with this idea of like, God is all powerful, but also love of God. And I'd never heard of that concept before because I'd never really encountered Christianity before. So when I started looking at Christianity, one of our peer leaders gave me her Bible to read, and she told me to read the Gospel of Matthew. And I really encountered Christianity in the people around me and in Jesus Christ in the Gospel of Matthew. And here's the thing, I did not know about the resurrection because no one had ever told me. So it was at that point in the Gospel of Matthew, when Jesus rises from the dead, I was like, what is this? And if this is true, then everything changes. So really, like, the biggest thing I was reading was the gospel, and I was talking to those around me. I didn't really go to the internet or read any other books. It was just the people and the gospel. That's it. I started understanding this like concept of denominations, which is also something I didn't quite understand before, like being like, oh, Christ is real, Christianity is real. And I like understood that they're all denominations like seem to have like these different beliefs and like social ideas. And I was like, well, I should probably find one that fits with mine. So I went on the internet and there was this quiz. I don't even know. It was like 30 questions. And it was like, if you believe in this, check it off. So I like checked off all of the things that I believed in and what I wanted in a church. And it would just like give you an answer back. And yeah, the Episcopalian Church came up because it's like traditional in, at least like it seemed like it's like traditional in worship and liturgy, but my social ideas matched. So the combination of both, it was like, this is it. And I was like, okay, I'll try and go to an Episcopalian service and see what happens. I didn't make it to the Episcopalian service because I honestly don't know. I think either they didn't have it that day or I couldn't get there. But I knew that there was a mass on campus. So the girl across from me was Catholic. So I asked her if I could go to mass with her. And so I ended up at the 11:30 a.m. mass at the Georgia Tech Catholic Center instead of the Episcopalian service. Going to mass, I had no idea what was going on because I'd never been to mass before. And in the homily, the chaplain, Father Josh, he was talking about turning your life over simply because God loves you. And if I became Catholic, my life would be a 180 degree. And it felt like he was talking to me. And that opened me up to that moment of consecration. Like, you have to understand, I did not know that that was the moment of consecration back then. I didn't even know that that was an altar. I didn't know anything. But it was in that moment, I remember bawling my eyes out, because the closest that I can explain it is I felt home, which also didn't make sense, right? Because home's in India. But I felt home, and I knew that something was there. And I had been given 2 instructions for Mass. It's going to be a lot of sitting, standing, and kneeling. Do the best you can. And when everyone starts going into the line, don't go into the line. And honestly, in that moment, all I wanted to do was go into that line and get whatever that was that I didn't know what it was back then. Honestly, I think at that moment I knew I was going to be Catholic. I fought it for a little bit, but then eventually I joined RCIA to learn more about the Catholic Church. Not really with the intention of converting, but really to learn. And the more I learned about the church, the more I encountered the people, I fell in love with it. They told us to sign up for a holy hour in RCIA. And I walked into the chapel, and this is my first time in adoration. I walked into the chapel, and I knew what was there was the same thing at Mass. And I remember looking at my friend and pointing and being like, what is that? And obviously she's confused because, if you show up for a holy hour, you would know what that is. But she looked at me and she said, that is God, fully present. And I just remember in that moment just being like, what do you mean? And it was those holy hours, like sitting with the Lord and learning more about the church, and really just like coming to accept that I didn't know, that I was wrong, that brought me to like, that like moment of initiation into the church, right? Like April 4th, 2015, I got baptized. I received First Communion, finally. Waited so long for that. And I got confirmed. And it was amazing. And every day's been better since.